All right, this is a real talk about Georgia and Florida staying in Jacksonville, and this is from people who cover the game on the field, all that stuff. We've seen it. Listen, immediate reactions of them sticking this game in Jacksonville for a couple more years, Ryan.
Yeah, I mean, this not surprised at all. Like I think that this was the most likely thing that was going to happen. I don't like the game being in Jacksonville. I know that you kind of lean towards keeping it there, I think, but I don't like it. I mean, the parts of the trip that I like have nothing to do with the actual event. So, but the actual event, I don't think it's great. It's not a personal attack on that stadium or that staff. But I think the further we go through this process, the more that I'd rather see it be a home and home. But I understand why they extended it, and I don't think this was like a decision that was long in the making, which has happened over the last few weeks.
Matt?
Yeah, I'm cool with it being there another few years. Kind of like Ryan said, for reasons outside of the game, I get to drive down through Macon and see some family on the way down, and maybe hit a couple high schools in South Georgia that I normally don't get to. So in a way, I'm glad it's in Jacksonville, and it's one of the best traditions and atmospheres in all of American sports. So there is that feel to it, that energy. But they could do a lot better job of hosting it, especially from a media standpoint. So they've got to do a better job. So part of me is looking forward to one day, Georgia hosting Florida in Sanford Stadium and getting that type of crowd and environment. Just seeing, I mean, Athens is pretty crazy, as Ryan knows, going to school there for the past few years. I mean, a big weekend, big game atmosphere is awesome. So I'd love to see Florida play there, and I'd like to check, the Swamp off the bucket list and cover a game there, see what it's all about. So I'm cool with doing the Jacksonville thing for another 2 to 3 years. Is that right, Dean? Until 25, and then I would be excited about changing something up.
Make sure you're picking up our 2024 preview. There's Kendall Milton, if I can get him on the screen. You can pick it up down below. Here's the cover. If you've not watched our Riding Home before, we've been doing these for years. Anyway, we got some stuff packed into our preview magazine and links down below. If you're picking up Double Dogs, you're going to get the magazine for free. That's a great offer. Last year, I ran out of the preview magazine, so you've been warned. I think it's good that it's staying down there. I am starting. So let me two things. I think it is good that it's staying down there. I am not sure that the game will ever move from down there now. And what I mean by that is, even during this construction, someone told me yesterday, it is possible that the stadium be available to the Jags and the Dogs and Gators. That's something that's being kicked around during construction. We'll see about that part. I'm not reporting that by any stretch, but we'll see if that's the case. I think the thing about Georgia, Florida, and I've talked about this a lot, there's not a bigger win for Georgia every year than their game with the Gators, and it's the biggest game. It matters the most to Georgia fans. Georgia Auburn's lost a lot of steam lately. Georgia's really just kicked their ass probably one too many times for that game to matter the way it feels like it once did. Although in 17 it seemed to matter quite a bit. But I think I'm curious to see the game in Athens and in Gainesville. I mean, I think there'd be a lot of Georgia fans in Gainesville if things continue like they're going right now. But it just seems pretty clear that the schools want it in Jacksonville. And I will say that. Let me say one other thing. I know I talk a lot, but the schools wanted this. They wanted the extension, and they got the extension. They were the ones that called for it. Number two, because it seems like this game is not gonna change. There's some things that I would say that this group's going to talk about right now, or at least Ryan and I are going to talk about if Matt's got to check out for a second. We're good? Okay. Then I think there's some things that still need to be done. I will start with, and y'all can take it from here. If I were the schools, I would really want there to be a title sponsor to this game. Texas and Oklahoma have done it forever. Army and Navy have done it for some time now. There's no reason why the schools and the city cannot add a reputable company to be the title sponsor of this, whether it's High Noon or Budweiser or Delta. So there's no explanation why that would not be the case. I could understand not doing alcohol, okay, but
It'd be fitting.
well, it would be fitting, which is what the schools are trying to stay away from. That's what I would say. My number one criticism of this thing right now, I have a lot of criticisms. That's where I would start. Matt, where would you go from there?
Well, I think you're right, but just going back to it's the biggest party in the world. That's what it was called, the largest outdoor cocktail party. It was the scenes down there are wild. I mean, when we drive out of there, we're still seeing people just trying to figure out where they are. I mean, it is a real scene down there. It's completely different than anything we see. And I know Ryan and his crew and the students have a great time before and after. I mean, the whole thing's a giant party, and I know they're trying to stay away from that, but that's always going to be connected with this game. Now, did Kirby say he wants this to go home and home too for recruiting? I forgot what he said. I forgot what Billy Napier said as well. I know the coaches and the schools have different ideas of the future of this game, Dean.
Just real quick so Ryan can talk. Billy was pretty matter of fact about he realized that there's a monetary reason why this game is staying in Jacksonville. Kirby has been pretty clear, but he's backed away a lot lately about how he would like to see it home and home.
Yeah, I think as far as just power of voice, Kirby's got a lot more power than Napier would in that argument.
But not much power, as it turns out.
No, yeah, apparently not. I don't know, man. I don't want to say something that's going to get me flamed.
Why not?
I think that the whole outdoor cocktail party portion of it's a little overrated. Just from what I've seen, I don't know if I'm missing parts of Jacksonville that maybe we're avoiding some of it when we go down.
I don't think it's like it was in the 90s.
But yeah, to me, I like.
Well, no, they're not serving. I mean, well, it's definitely not like it was. Go ahead.
The first time I went down there for that game, and I was like, I didn't think it was any crazier than a normal tailgate.
Oh, I think I think it's a little more intense personally, but
maybe because what's going on Friday with the students is just crazier than that. So then going to that is not the same, but it's kind of my take on the party part.
Yeah, but what about around the stadium? I think that's where they're really missing some stuff. They've made it nicer, Matt, but it's just not great down there.
Yeah, it's just
the traffic is
a lot of traffic. I was just going to say a lot of traffic, and there's still a good amount of walking to do. But people start early, and I do think it's a little better when the teams are evenly matched. It's a top 10 game. I mean, at 18 and 19 just felt a little better around the stadium. You could feel it a little bit more in the atmosphere and just in the environment than in 2017, I guess, when everyone knew Georgia was going to beat Florida down badly over and over again. So I think depending on the year, the atmosphere can be a little better, but it is special. And just to, half red and black, half orange and blue. I mean, it really is a sight. And I've said this in another video. It's always at 3:30. So when 6 o'clock rolls around and the sky turns orange, it's a very, very cool feeling out there. And it's usually, you're in the fall, it's Halloween weather, light jacket type, it's not too cold. It's not too hot. It's right in the middle of the season, somewhat. So it's very cool. And I think if it ever does stop being in Jacksonville, I think a lot of people are going to look on and be like, man, I miss it being down there. I wish it was back down there. So we'll see how it goes.
Well, I think, the other thing too is it's the funny part for the schools is about this. Going back to the sponsorship of the alcohol. There's alcohol all through that stadium. I mean, liquor. I mean, it's everywhere.
That's one of the most accessible places to get it, man. I mean,
it's
right when you walk down, kind of where the band hangs out, and it's in between the stadium and the place where they put the photographers. The whole that bar is huge, but it's throughout the whole stadium. I think the issue I have with the environment is that I feel like, to me, it feels more like an NFL Sunday than it does a college football Saturday when I'm walking through those tailgates. I don't know. It just reminds me of an NFL tailgate more than it does a college tailgate. I don't know if it's because the way Jacksonville's laid out, the way they have this giant parking lot right
It's
there.
an NFL stadium. I mean,
that's what makes it feel like that to me. But No, I don't know what you're talking about, man. It's so damn windy up there where I go. I get cold going to that game. That was so windy, dude. I think the first year it was
Wow.
bad.
I think it's a wonderful event. Well, the other real criticism I would have is, the Gator Bowl should take this game over, or the city of Jacksonville. It should not be the Florida Sports Information or Florida Athletic Department. And so much of this game is run by Florida, and again, it's gotten way better. I can't tell you how much better it's gotten. But man, it's still not great. And finally, Georgia has its own appropriately sized media room. I've been going down there 20 years, and Georgia's never had a real. Florida's room has been like double the size. It's huge. I think that if there was if someone were running the game in a way that's more appropriate, it would be a better production in house. As far as like fan stuff, I think people just being brutally honest, I think people like getting drunk and going to that game. I don't think it's like a home game at all. It's different. There's a lot. That's a South Georgia home game in a way that like the Atlanta games. When Georgia plays in Atlanta, that's a money game. You know what I'm talking about? Like the crowd is a wealthy crowd. That's a high dollar finance, whatever crowd. In Athens, it's a normal Georgia crowd, whatever that is. In Jacksonville, that's a party crowd, hard, and you can see it in the stands. I think it's a big time, great game for the students. And I think it's a part of Americana in a way. It's college football, and it's the fourth most watched in the last decade. It's the fourth most watched regularly scheduled college football game in the sport. The only games that are bigger than that, y'all, are Ohio State, Michigan, Auburn, Alabama, and then Army, Navy barely over Georgia, Florida, not by a lot. So it really does matter in Americana. Matt, go ahead and wrap us up.
Maybe some more fights between the fan bases. I'll wrap it up that way.
There was a really big one in 2020. Yeah. I mean, it was dirty.
Yeah. I want to see some more of that. Let's get some more action going on and really just, get those fan bases all riled up. When you have it split like that, I need to see a little more action. With that much liquor going around and those two fan bases that hate each other, a little more fisticuffs, would be cool on my end to see. But that's about it.
I thought Matt was going to end it, but I'll end it like this. Years ago, when the Gator Bowl, back in the day, before the Gator Bowl became Jacksonville Memorial Stadium and all this stuff, every other section was Georgia, Florida, Georgia, Florida, Georgia, Florida, and there were fights all the time. So the school said, no, we're just going to quarters. And so one quarter of the stadium was Georgia, the other quarter was the Gators. And then there were still too many fights. So then they just split it. They said, you know what? We're just splitting it. That's all there is to it. But where they split it is with the students, if you notice. It's not with the regular fans. So to the students' credit, over the last quarter century, there's not been a lot of stupidity, which is good, I would say.